I want to bring the conversation now to Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick, serving on the House Foreign Affairs Committee as well as the House Armed Services Committee. It's not lost on me on this program that it is TSA, it's Secret Service, FEMA, and others, not ICE, that would be potentially hurt by this decision to not push through funding for DHS. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, this is so frustrating. As a guy who, I was a Marine Corps officer, we didn't ever have to worry about this. Well, when I was in, you talk about defunding the military, defunding law enforcement. It's ridiculous. As you just said, this is not going to directly affect ICE. They're actually going to have a decrease in what they want. They're not going to have body cams. They're not going to have extra training. They're not going to have a better result. They're going to have worse. They want the issue, not the solution. That's what they've been. The things they're asking for is laughable. When you talk about having IDs, their first and last name, and uncovering their face, that's way more than you wanted for voter identification. I find that total hypocrisy. You know that's just for doxing. You know that's to threaten people's families. There's no other possible reason you want that. They're already well identified as ICE agents. You don't like what they're doing? Fine. Change the law. But that's not what you're after right now. You're after harassment. You're trying to make an issue, trying to make something to hurt the president and the conservative movement. This is not about law enforcement. This is about winning elections and about power. That's why they brought in 20 million illegal immigrants during their presidency, because they want to change the way we do business in the future. Shame on them.
Let's talk about the merits of the argument itself against those against funding DHS. There's a proposal out there introduced, and it seems to be a non-starter, but it was introduced yesterday by Democratic Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, the ranking member of the House Appropriations Committee. So she's calling for a bill that would fund every agency under the DHS umbrella except for ICE, CBP, and the Office of the Secretary. In fact, here's what she said in a statement. Immigration and Customs Enforcement cannot be abolished, but I will not provide a single dime of funding until we see radical changes in how it operates. If Republican leadership blocks this legislation from moving forward, they are responsible for any shuttered agencies, furloughed workers, missed paychecks, and reduced services. Now, I want to point out Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he's already dismissed this proposal. So again, appearing to be a non-starter. But what does that tell you about the merits of this argument from the left?
First of all, we shouldn't be paying attention to that individual congresswoman because we passed in Congress what we had to pass. This is entirely on the Senate right now. What she says is inconsequential other than just banter, distraction from the ultimate goal of passing 12 appropriations bills, funding the government, getting on with business like the people charged us with, actually taking care of immigration in a very responsible way. We did our part in the House. It's up now to the Senate. I find it actually insulting that the Senate's going to continue on going to Munich and to other Codels where we canceled our schedule, even though we're not the problem. And I hold our leadership responsible for this, by the way. I never speak against leadership. I'm not against leadership. I think it's self-punishment to pretend like we're the problem. We are not the problem. Congress did our job. It's up to the Senate now. It's ironic that they're the ones that are going to be traveling, and we're not going to participate in Munich Security Council or NATO in the most germane time of NATO's existence. And we have the controlling votes in NATO. We're not going to be there because as if we're the problem. The Congress is not the problem. We did our job. Senate, let's get to it.
You know, something that the House was able to get done is the SAVE Act. That was pivotal. It passed the House last night, very slim, 218-213. One Democrat voted for the act, which was Henry Cuellar of Texas. And then there was a statement of so why. And I'll read it. It seems common sense. He says American citizens should decide American elections. That principle strengthens our democracy and protects the value of every vote. People get married, people get divorced, and people change their names. Those moments should never create uncertainty about whether someone can vote. That's why this bill requires states to accommodate name changes and accept multiple commonly held forms of identification. How much credit do you give the congressman on the other side of the aisle for standing up to his party, just the lone soul, if you will?
Yeah, I was surprised that more didn't come over. Actually, I was talking to him before the vote, and I was kidding him. I said, you're on the right side of the aisle. You might as well just convert now. And he was joking. He said, well, I'm going to have to go back over there and make some votes, but I'll be back over here doing that vote because I know how this is going to come out. But he thought there were going to be 2 or 3 others that voted with us. It is actually a populist movement. Most people realize that ID is required for almost anything. That ID is free. And when I was talking to another member of Mr. Jonathan Jackson on the way up the stairs, he said, there's no voter ID problems. We don't have any conspiracy theories out there. I said, but I can go to your state right now and say that I'm you and give them your address and vote for you. How do you think how many people need to be disenfranchised before you say there can be and there will be fraud? It's a ridiculous assumption that if you don't have IDs, you're not going to have fraud. You're going to have fraud. Maybe you can't count it because you can't prove it. That's exactly what they want. But we're on the right side of history on this. I think it's going to pass. I hope the Senate has the common sense to pass this. And if they don't, they're on the wrong side of history once again, because here's what's funny. In my state, a certain senator, Ossoff, had a huge gathering. And you know what they required for everybody who attended? Photo IDs, government issued, and I rest my case. That's a senator on the left side who won't vote for this.
Well, it's discouraging. I don't see much hope in the Senate, and I say that because you only have one Democrat that came over in the House for this. When we know this, polling showing 71% of Democrats support showing a photo ID, yet that wasn't shown in the voting, which tells me that this is all politics at play.
100%. They want to win elections. This is about power, not about anything else, not about fairness. They know it. They know they're cheating. They want to support cheating. They want to win elections, and they can't do it the right way, so they're going to do it the wrong way. And they justify it because they vilify us, that they make us the bad guys. So therefore, cheating is okay as long as you're going against the bad guys, somebody who they have labeled as evil. And that's why I have to be very careful about defining what good and evil is.
Well, watch it in the Senate. We do appreciate the time of Congressman Rich McCormick. Congressman, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.